Hello everyone, and today we are back for another Loomian Legacy top 5 video. We're going to be ranking the top 5 Loomians that has enchantments in all of Loomian Legacy. Enchantments is a support move that boosts the defense for your Loomians, which is awesome when supporting a wall breaking team. So with that out of the way, let's head right onto this list. So, number 5 onto this list was actually really close, but I decided to go with Morth. Now, it was between Morth and Gobademic. Gobademic is more for a suicide lead, while Morth is more bulky. And that's the reason why I did pick Morth. Morth has the reflective ability, which actually makes it reflect light-type attacks. And it has that range defense, meaning it could actually set up an enchantment a lot easier. Now, the reason why Morth is only number 5 and not actually higher on the list is because Morth suffers from something called 4-move syndrome. It's almost never going to run enchants. I see them run far enchantment sometimes, but it's very rare. Most people run Shatter to get the barbs up. They run Reflection Burst to actually hit Charonics. They run Baffle and Fade Away for pivot, Shadow Sprint for priority, and Dark Surge to hit Luminami. There's just so many other moves that Morth could run that's the reason why it's not the best screen setter. But it's still very good, and it can still set up enchantments really well. But compared to some of the other Loomians that has screens, it definitely isn't the best one. But it is better than Gobademic, because Gobademic just runs barbs most of the time. And let's just say there's another Loomian on this list that is better than Gobademic. So that's why I put Morth at number 5 and not Gobademic. And it definitely deserves to be in the number 5 spot in terms of an enchantment user. So yeah, number 4 onto this list is going to be Arceros. And I know what everyone is thinking. Why does the worst dragon in the entire game be number 4 on the list in enchantments? Why can't you just use Glacidia or Nova Diaz? The problem with Glacidia is that it has other moves like Peace of Mind and Icicle Trap, so it suffers from 4-move syndrome. And Nova Diaz wants to run attacks on both sides because it has 129 attack on both sides. As for Arceros, Arceros does not suffer from 4-move syndrome. It only has 5 viable moves: Boiling Press, Outburst, Slumber, Bulk Up, and Near Enchantment. This Loomian can actually run Near Enchantment really well to boost up its melee defense, which is awesome for Arceros. And that's the reason why I put Arceros above the other dragons, even though the other dragons are better overall. Arceros is a better enchantments user overall. Now, there is a debate that Arceros could run Burn Up over the enchantments to get rid of barbs, but it's kind of counterproductive for Arceros because, you know, it increases its ranged attack and not its melee attack, because Arceros is a melee attacker. So I think running Near Enchantment is overall a better move than running Burn Up, especially for Arceros. And that's why I put it Arceros number 4 on the list. Number 3 onto this list is going to be Rancor, and this is the first and good enchantment Loomian on this list. The other two were just filler spots, but Rancor can actually use enchantments really well, especially when you're running a defensive set with Devious and Gobspout. Gobspout is an ancient type move that can poison the opposing Loomians. You could run Dodge with Health Amulet, Peace of Mind, Augment, and of course, Near and Far Enchantment. You can run Far Enchantment to increase your range defense even more, or run Near Enchantment so you can actually soak hits on the melee side. And that's what makes Rancor a really good screens Loomian. It can also use Augment, so you can use your enchantments, then an Augment, and then fade away out into another Loomian to utilize Augment. Because Rancor is not only a very good screens Loomian, but it's also the best Augment Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy, which is awesome for it. Has a very good range to defense stat, very good offensive capabilities as well, and it has pretty good coverage. Its defensive typing is probably the only thing that isn't that good with Rancor, but other than that, it's really good as a screens user and also as an offensive user. And it definitely benefits from 2 sets, because you don't know which Rancor set you're going to be up against until it uses its first move, which definitely supports the screens Rancor as well. And that's why Rancor is number 3 on the list. Number 2 onto this list is going to be Dorg. Now, 1 and 2 are the only Loomians I would recommend to run screens on, and Dorg is the number 2 spot. This is probably the Loomian that can set up enchantments the easiest. And that is because of the handy ability. With the handy ability, you will always be able to set your enchantments first, meaning that you're never going to be able to take that much damage on Dorg. Not to mention, this Loomian has very balanced bulk across the board. Has a good health stat, good melee defense stat, and a good range defense stat, meaning it can pretty much soak any hit in the entire game with an enchantment. And since you're always able to get your enchants up first, you're always going to be able to soak damage. And then you can set up the second enchant, you could throw a Hypnotize, you could throw a Poison, you could throw a Provoke, Barter, Heavy Shackles. There's so many ways you can actually run Dorg, and it has so much support. This Loomian is so good, and it's definitely worth a spot on your team because you could set up screens, poison the opposing Loomians, and Hypnotize. There's a lot of value by adding Dorg, but it does fall short to the #1 spot because it doesn't have any pivot options, unlike the #1 Loomian on this list. But despite that though, Dorg is still one of the best screens Loomians in all of Loomian Legacy. The best enchantment Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy is Cleon. Now, it was actually very close between Cleon and Dorg. Dorg has the ability to set up the enchants first while also having a better defensive typing, while Cleon has the persistence ability, which can make the enchantments last an extra turn, which is awesome. Cleon also has a healing move in Rejuvenate, which is awesome as well. But the best part about Cleon is after you set up your enchantments, you have Dissipate. You can pivot out and go into your wall-breaking Loomians with 2 or 3 turns of enchantments up. And when you combine that with Frail Armor, Colossotrops, and Rageful Plushie, you could sweep teams really easily. It's probably the Loomian that could utilize the enchantments the best. And while it can't really utilize it for itself as good compared to Dorg, you could use it for your teammates, and it can be very, very dangerous. This thing also has Rejuvenate to heal its health back. You could run the Repugnance set, so chomping moves don't do as much damage. And it's the bulkiest Loomian on this list. So this is the Loomian that gives you the most chance to actually set up both of your enchantments up. You also have Stratagem, which also hits really hard because Cleon has a really high range defense stat. Between Cleon and Dorg, you could definitely flip them between the #1 and #2 spot. But I think personally, Cleon is the best enchantments Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy. So that's why it gets the #1 spot. And here it is, Cleon, the best enchantments Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy. And honestly, this list was very hard to make because there's only 3 good enchantment Loomians at the moment. So hopefully more Loomians can get enchantments in the future and they can actually utilize it well. With that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see y'all all later. Bye-bye!